Hello, this is Brian Bothan, and I am doing my video on student dress code for the Rochester Public Schools. I actually picked this topic because I believe that it is one that the district does need to spend a little bit more time trying to clarify. Part of the reason that I say that is that if you go to the student handbook for the Rochester Public Schools, dress code is actually only even mentioned twice. Once it's listed in the student behavior handbook under minor violations, just among a laundry list of things that can be violations. And then again later on in the handbook it mentions that student dress and appearance must comply with the school board policy. So really that's about the only guidance that students have to determine whether or not the clothing that they decide to wear every day might meet the dress code. So what does the school board policy say? It says that clothing has to be appropriate for the weather, that it doesn't create a health or a safety hazard, that it's appropriate for the activity, such as phy-ed or education in the classroom. It says that inappropriate clothing includes, but is not limited to, clothing bearing a message that is lewd, vulgar, or obscene, apparel promoting products or activities that are illegal, or objectionable emblems, badges, symbols, signs, words, objects, a whole laundry list of things that are just considered objectionable, and any apparel that would damage school property. It also says that hats can only be worn with the principal's permission. And then there's a little disclaimer at the bottom that the purpose of this policy isn't to infringe on the rights of students to express their political, religious, philosophical, or similar opinions by wearing apparel on which such messages are stated. So there's a little non-political disclaimer at the bottom. But again, there really isn't anything so far in the policy that gives us any guidance as to what sort of thing might be appropriate. Obviously, this all kind of builds on school law. One of the cases we talked about, I guess, Tinker versus Des Moines, talks about the fact that students do have the right to freedom of expression. They did specifically mention, though, that the problem posed by the present case does not relate to regulation of length of skirts or type of clothing or to hairstyle or deportment. So even all the way up to the Supreme Court, there really isn't anything to give a person guidance as to what might be appropriate attire. Again, it's one of the things that's listed in the school handbook as being a possible violation, but we really don't have any idea what you need to do to comply with it. So it does say on the in the handbook that they won't restrict political messages. This is actually a picture of a shirt that I believe is similar to a shirt that was considered obscene in one school district, and they took it to court and eventually managed to get it approved in their district. Part of the reason that I put this up is because I spend quite a bit of time out in the school buildings. I have seen quite a few shirts that I think might be borderline objectionable. Never seen one of these shirts out in the schools, and I think it might be because, at least on some level in some buildings, students have gotten the message that this shirt isn't appropriate in our schools. So my real question is, who gets to decide? This picture on the right is a picture of two students who are in a Minnesota school that were sent home because their clothing didn't meet the dress code. This is actually in Duluth, but it was in a local paper and commented on in our local paper as an example of dress code problems. I honestly have no idea, the girl on the left, what the dress code violation was. I read through the article and I couldn't tell. The girl on the right, I guess, is just showing a little bit too much skin, which does sort of lead us to the a problematic issue, is that quite often dress codes really do tend to be quite sexist. This is a quote from an article from the the Huffington Post, often clothing is considered to be in violation of the dress code because it's too distracting. But to say that it's too distracting for boys is giving us the impression, giving girls the impression that we should be guilty for what guys do. This is actually a fairly good video that makes that point.
Hey guys, welcome to my dress code haul. Today I went shopping and I picked up a few items that are perfect for any girl who goes to a school where there's a dress code. And, you know, I've been reading a lot about schools that have banned girls from wearing things like low yoga pants and leggings and stuff like that. And so I went ahead and picked out a few items that you'd be able to wear in public and be less of a distraction to guys, you know? Because we all know that dress codes are in schools so that girls learn that they are a distraction, and to teach boys that whenever they are distracted, it's the girl's fault. You know, so when they grow up and they go to college and the boy gets in trouble for something, they know to blame it on the girl. I went to two schools that had...
So I don't want to sit through this entire video right now, but I do think that she was clearly trying to make the point. I think she clearly made the point. Part of the trouble with the way that our dress codes are implemented is that they really do tend to blame girls for things that they don't blame guys for. And sorry, I just got to get to the next screen here, which sort of leads us to a couple of issues that I think are common in the way that most dress codes are used. First of all, talking about the person who gets distracted. It's easy to imagine how this policy is used to punish girls, really for the behavior of boys. These are some quotes from an article that I took from the Huffington Post also. You know, one of the problems with the policy is that it implies that girls have a responsibility for boys' responses and that boys cannot control themselves. I don't know that that's a message that we really want to be teaching either the boys or the girls in our schools. And a dress code policy is a subtle way of maybe teaching a lesson that we really don't. Also, these policies have a way of maybe putting too much focus on issues of fashion and style when it comes to women's clothing. And I think it's another one of those subtle things that we do in society that maybe puts pressure on girls in ways that it doesn't put pressure on boys. And so dress code has a way of affecting girls and possibly helping or possibly hurting their self-esteem. And it's not a lesson I think we should be teaching our students. So one of the ways that the dress codes affect the girls in our schools unfairly is that they have a way of shaming them. These are pictures that I got off the internet, but I know because my daughter has told me that our school has a dress code violation shirt similar to the one that's in that middle picture. Part of what I think is interesting about it is that the picture on the left is the outfit that the girl was wearing that caused her to have to wear the dress code violation shirt. Now, if you can, the reason is because the skirt was too short. Well, if you can see, the t-shirt that she's wearing is actually shorter than the skirt was, so they needed to make her wear pants underneath it to cover up her legs. Well, if the thing that they really wanted to cover up was her legs, why did she need to wear the shirt at all? Clearly, she needed to wear the shirt at all because wearing the shirt was part of the punishment. It wasn't necessarily that they didn't want her to wear that shirt, but they wanted her to be publicly shamed because she had worn that shirt. Part of the reason that I think that this issue is going to get a little bit more press in Minnesota soon is because the state has recently adopted a policy through the Minnesota State High School League of allowing transgender students to compete in sports in the gender of their choice. And I believe that it is also a fairly common thing for athletes on the day of their sport to be able to wear their uniform around the school. I see this as a real issue involving whether or not some of our school uniforms actually meet our dress code. I think it's pretty easy to imagine that some of the outfits that people wear in track, maybe cross country, if they were clothes that were meant to be worn during the school day, they wouldn't meet the dress code. But because they are allowed to wear them on the day that there's an event, they actually can wear them in school, even though they may not meet the dress code. So this kind of brings me all to the real issue that I think that I have with the policy in my school district is, if it is an offense at all, and I'm not even really sure whether dress code violations should be offense, but if it is it a major or a minor? It is listed in the student handbook under a minor level violation. If you look at that, it says classroom interventions may be appropriate when a student has had minimal or no prior violations. Well, anyway, it's classroom intervention. Then under major level, it says major violations will generally result in interventions or responses that involve the school administration. Well, I don't know that every teacher has one of those dress code violation shirts in their room. I suspect that when you get one of those shirts, you've been sent to the office. So if you've been sent to the office, I think that that means that you have had a major level violation. That's the way a major level violation is described in the handbook. Which really brings me back to my original, or the point that I would like to make with this video, is that there really is no guidance in our school district about what the dress code is. With so little guidance about what the dress code actually is, it's hard for me to imagine that it's applied uniformly across the district. I know that we do want to give building level leaders as much discretion as possible to make choices about how things are done in their school, but I also think that morale always suffers when students are unclear of the rules and when they perceive that the rules are being applied unfairly. Since there really is no rule that I can find here, it's impossible for me to imagine that what we do have isn't sometimes applied unfairly.